Today on TimesCast, Egypt's upheaval inspires protests in Yemen, Iran, and Bahrain. The Egyptian military has a plan for reform, but will it meet the protesters' expectations? And the country's tourism industry bets on a comeback. Unrest spreads across the Middle East as protesters are inspired by the ouster of Egypt's Hosni Mubarak. In Yemen, anti-government protests continue for a fourth straight day Monday as hundreds of student protesters clashed with pro-government demonstrators at Sana'a University. In Iran, hundreds of black-clad riot police were deployed in central Tehran and fired tear gas to thwart an opposition march. This video was posted on YouTube earlier today by a demonstrator. And in Bahrain, skirmishes broke out between heavily armed police and scattered groups of young people in villages outside the capital of Manama. Michael Slackman reports.
This is Michael Slackman with the New York Times in Manama, Bahrain. Protesters today called for a day of rage here, demanding political reforms in the Kingdom of Bahrain. In at least 16 villages outside the capital city, protesters squared off against police and found that there was zero tolerance for any kind of peaceful protests. Some people are taking videos, some are uploading those videos to YouTube, and some are simply giving updates on Twitter. The thing that's kind of remarkable about what's happening here is you have a king that is nervous because of the events that have happened in Egypt and Tunisia. So a couple days ago, he said he was going to give every Bahraini family the equivalent of something like $2,700, partly as an effort to kind of keep things calm and defuse the tensions that have existed here for a long time. Okay? Then he sends the police out in force. The police, without warning, attacked protesters all over this island today, shooting rubber bullets and tear gas at them, in many cases injuring people who had been doing nothing more than chanting slogans. Bahrain is a strategically important island in the Persian Gulf. It's the location for the United States Navy's Fifth Fleet. It is a bulwark by the United States against Iran's spreading influence in the region. And it indicates, once again, that this unrest that is being driven by young people has not stopped at the borders of Egypt.
In Egypt, the military and protest organizers are forming a new alliance.
It's 2 days after the ouster of President Hosni Mubarak, and the question on the minds of many in the opposition and in Tahrir Square, the center of the revolution, is just how serious is the military that's taken over this country about steering it towards democracy. The military leaders met for the first time with a group of civilians from the opposition, a group of the young leaders of the revolution, and they laid out a very brisk timetable for a transition to democracy. They're talking about 10 days for proposing constitutional amendments, 2 months for a referendum to approve those amendments, and then 6 months for an election, for a new parliament, new president, the whole thing. And there's some debate within the opposition over, is that enough time? Is it enough time for parties to get established? Is it enough time for candidates to get their messages out? Or is it going to be a situation where somebody wins just on the basis of name recognition? And beyond that, there's a question of just how serious the military is. So far, they've had this one meeting. They don't seem inclined to meet with Nobel Prize-winning diplomat Mohammed al-Baradei, who is the chosen negotiator of the opposition. And while they're meeting with civilians, they haven't yet brought anyone from the opposition into their ranks, into the process of governing. At the same time, the military issued their 6th communique today, asking people to get back to work because there are still a lot of wildcat strikes around the country, people asking for more money in the aftermath of the revolution. My colleague Steve Farrell checked in on the all-important tourism industry here in Egypt.
This shirt is on sale for $12 in Cairo already, although the revolutionary slogans have barely been scrubbed from the walls of Tahrir Square. Egypt's tourist economy has been devastated since the January 25th revolution. The pyramids, usually packed, are now virtually deserted. 5-star hotels lie empty, and tour companies have lost a fortune because of cancellations and postponements.
We have lost average, about $3.5–4 million.
Mr. Nazmi was sitting in the foyer of one of those empty hotels. It overlooks the pyramids, yet has not one guest in 420 rooms. Egypt's State Information Service says tourism accounts for 11% of its gross domestic product and nearly 20% of Egypt's foreign currency revenues.
Do you have any sense of how much Egypt's tourism industry has lost as a result of this?
All of it.
So angry were Giza's camel riders at finding themselves jobless that they staged a protest during the 18-day revolution. Indeed, many suspect they were the ones who charged into Tahrir Square to confront anti-government protesters. But Cairo's entrepreneurs have already begun to turn Tahrir Square's new fame to their commercial advantage. And in line with the ruling military's edict to get back to work, the tourism industry is already pushing hard the notion that Tahrir Square will soon be another stop on the tourist trail.
There will be a new tourism to Tahrir Square, the most famous square in the whole world right now.
Join us again tomorrow for TimesCast.